Do you hear an echo with me?
No.
I decided to call you driving down the road. It's Lavinia and myself. Sarah's back there, but apparently she is awake.
All right. Glad you're here. All right. We just now started. Like you're the first person to talk. So, welcome to the live, Dennis.
Well, I saw Byron there. Where's everybody else?
Byron's here.
I
We
saw
got
him.
Brad and Josh and Dennis and
Oh,
Jacob.
there's everybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, Dennis.
Why didn't anybody tell anybody what was going on next weekend or this weekend?
Well, if I knew the timelines myself, I would probably communicate those people. But seeing how I've been in the dark about it for most part myself, don't know how to tell anybody.
Oh my goodness. Well, I understand. Well, now it's out there, so hopefully
It's
we'll
out
have
there.
some people.
Well, it's out there
Hopefully,
that
some
something's
people
going
will
on.
show up now.
I saw your post and I put all the timelines and everything on there that I got told to me last week. Yeah,
Oh, so you had a week and just failed to pick up the ball, huh?
I guess so. Sorry. I'm the
Nah,
worst.
I'm giving you grief, brother. Just giving you a little bit of grief.
I know. No, I can attest to that. I have been asking those questions since end of January, and I just got a confirmation last week about it. So I'm like, yeah.
Gotcha.
And I got it from our right worshipful. You know who that is, so that's all I have to go through some of these channels. But yeah, I got it all out there now.
Gotcha. Cool.
Okay, good deal. We did have the reunion going on this coming weekend, but it was canceled, and so Lavinia and I will be there, and Sarah.
Thanks for the warning. Appreciate it.
What is the event?
Yes, I mean I'm glad you feel that way about my family, but
No, your family's more. You. There's the warning. I always look forward to seeing Lavinia and Sarah. You're the warning.
Right.
Now we have
take this opportunity to tell everybody.
Well, I'm trying to get the words out of my mouth here in a second. We have the Grand Master and Grand Lodge coming down to Goliad this weekend for the wreath laying at the Phantom Memorial Battlegrounds. There will be a representation of Grand Lodge open at approximately 9 o'clock. This year, we're also going to hold a footstone ceremony. Unbeknownst to me, there is a past Grand Master buried here in Goliad, past Grand Master Webb. He was past Grand Master in the late 1800s, I believe. I don't know the exact date, but we'll be doing that ceremony along with the wreath laying as well. So we'll have a bunch of people down here for the reenactment of the Phantom Battlegrounds. We'll do the wreath laying. I have it on good authority that we'll have someone who knows how to cook fajitas. My wife will be cooking us a fajita lunch that day. So we'll have some good food there. And like I said, good old time. We'll be open on Masters at 8 o'clock, 8:15 in the morning. Representation at 9 of Grand Lodge. And then we'll have the ceremonies after that. And then once everybody gets done, they're all taken off to San Antonio for the Grand Masters Conference after that. So that is the lowdown.
The footstone is ready. It's up in Dallas, up in Louisville, my home city, where I was literally raised, and from a childhood. And I'm in the works of getting it down here right now.
Yeah, so that's the same thing I was told. They were in the works of getting it south, so if it gets here, we'll do that. The family of past master has been notified.
We'll be here because I'm the one who's getting it down here.
Okay, well then I have all the faith in you that it'll be here on Saturday. So we're gonna do that before we go to the wreath laying, because I was told on the official schedule of the Grand Master, it says the wreath laying is at 10:30 and opening representation is at 9. So we're going to do that before we go to the Phantom Memorial to lay the wreath. So that's what's going down in Goliad. So come on down, meet some Grand Lodge officers. Meet Dennis if you haven't yet, which I'm sure Dennis has pretty much met everybody around the state. But yeah, we'll have a good old, and we'll have after we get done cleaning up at Lodge, we may or may not have some libations afterwards. You never know, especially with this crew that I have. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Dennis has met everybody in Texas. That's why he's going to New Mexico and Arkansas and stuff all the time now. He's already met everybody here. He's got to branch out and try new states.
Right. Find some people that don't know me so that I can find somebody that might like me.
100% true.
Well,
Cody,
and the trick is I take my wife and daughter with me so I have a better chance.
so Cody's in chat. Cody Stewart, he's asking about Louisville. You say you're just picking up the footstone from there. Is that right? There's nothing going on in Louisville?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. All right. Yeah, that's what I just don't want to speak for you, but that's what I thought you said. Very cool. Anything else we need to get out and talk about before we dig into some quotes or anything? So if
Oh
not,
no, we know you love your quotes.
I do, especially if they're my quotes, if they're quotes of me. But
I've got one thing, and I haven't brought up yet because I don't like to really brag on myself a whole lot. But and Dennis Hush, this past February we had a forum, and I was lucky enough to get my C certificate. So
congratulations,
which is a big thing for me. So
well,
Outstanding.
Yes,
that
that
is
is
huge.
awesome. Yes.
Good job indeed. I always said, as a district instructor, my job is to make myself, same thing as like a father, right? Your job is to make yourself obsolete, right? I want so many people around me that are Masons to have certificates that I am obsolete. And so good job for getting that. You're definitely pushing the ball. So we have a lot of certificate holders in this group. So I'm proud of all of you. Very good.
Well, and Goliad has been strong for a long time, and Josh is carrying on the torch, and I'm grateful for him, making that effort and keeping Goliad strong, because that means a lot to me and a lot of other people.
Yeah, that's huge. That is a very big step. So I'm very proud of you, Josh. All right, so go ahead.
Just real quick, I had a question asked of me this week. Do we have any idea approximately what percentage of Masons in Texas are certificate holders?
100% of certificate holders have
Be there for a second. I hear you.
Is it 5%?
5%?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure I pass that on, because that was the question asked of me when I presented a certificate to a brother this week.
Yeah. Sounds right. Cody's in chat. He could verify, but I believe 5% is right. You probably heard that from Cody, did you not, Brad? I think he mentioned that at like Roy City.
Yeah, it may be even lower than that.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see not just certificate holders, but breaking down the certificate, like how many have C's, B's, and A's and all that. That'd be interesting to know. But y'all know I like data. I'm weird like that. So
I got to see 2 lifetime certificates given this weekend up in New Mexico. That was kind of cool. Just FYI, I mean, just throwing out there, since we're talking about certificates, that's kind of always cool to see that.
that is cool.
One was an older brother, and one was actually a brother, middle older like me. So that was kind of cool.
It is cool. I went to Zern Lodge over the weekend. It's actually, it was hosted by Zern Lodge, which meets in Holland, Texas. But they held it at the Temple Masonic Center, where Knob Creek is in Temple. And the reason I have this quote here in the chat is because it really resonated with me, particularly in light of something we discussed previously when we had our book club meeting 2 weeks ago now. And the thing is, this is not the first time that I've gone to an esoteric event, and the turnout was not really very large. Royce City was an exception. The Summit was an exception. But the majority of these things I go to, the turnout's not huge. And it made me think of this quote. And I know what people usually construe the context of it to be. Let me go ahead and read it. So it's from Albert Pike. This is Morals and Dogma. The blue degrees are but the outer court or portico of the temple. Part of the symbols are displayed there to the initiate, but he is intentionally misled by false interpretations. It is not intended that he shall understand them, but it is intended that he shall imagine he understands them. The true explication is reserved for the adepts, the princes of masonry. Now, typically, this is assumed that he's talking about the Scottish Rite degrees, and it could be he could have just been being very literal about that, but I take it. I look a little bit deeper, because the thing is, if you look at Freemasonry, I almost look at it like an upside down triangle, with the very tip being like the esoteric Masons. So it's like this giant funnel where you have the general public at the top, and then petitioners, and then your exoteric Masons, which are those that just, like Pike's talking about in the quote, these are the ones that just take the symbols as they are, take the interpretations for what they're told, and they don't really look much deeper. And then you have another smaller group who, these are the ones that kind of chase degrees, because they don't understand that Freemasonry is not passive. So they keep looking for something that just kind of feeds them the information. Like, just tell me all this information. But then you have the very tip, and those are like the esoteric Masons. Those are the ones that understand that Freemasonry is not passive. It's good to go to events, but you're not going just to receive information. You go to learn so that you can use that in your own research, in your own journey. And so I wanted to share this quote. That's just my interpretation. I'd be glad to hear kind of what y'all thought about it also. But this is who said that?
Where did that quote come from? Was it
It's Pike.
Dennis? Where did that Esoterica though? And that's where he's talking about the 3 degrees.
Esoterica?
Yeah.
Okay. I misquoted the book, but okay. But
I may be wrong. I was thinking that's where it came from when right before he started talking about the 3 blue degrees.
Well, I originally thought it was Esoterica also, and then I searched the quote several times, and it said Morals and Dogma, so I just assumed I was wrong. But you might be right. It might be Esoterica.
Oh well, it may be. Who knows?
If we're being frank, you're more familiar with Pike than I am. So if you say it's Esoterica, I believe you. And so anyway, and the reason I wanted to do this, not just because I wanted the quote to discuss, but I heard a really interesting talk, and it was the last talk of this little esoteric conference, and it was David Bendel, and it wasn't necessarily an esoteric presentation at all, but he had this concept that I really enjoyed, and it was that when you meet with your brothers, we're building these spiritual temples, right? And it takes these stones, and we're given these working tools, but we never really do anything with them. And so when you meet with your brothers, you should be thinking about how you apply the working tools to your life, or something that you learned in this case, something from a quote, and you're bringing that stone to your brothers. You're building this temple, this figurative temple together, but everybody has to bring the stones that they built over this period of time. And so this isn't specifically like a symbol, but I'm using this quote in context of it really resonated in me based off what I saw. So I feel like I'm kind of being long-winded on this, but it was pretty interesting to me. So I'm curious what y'all's thoughts are, if I get that word out.
Well, you know what my thoughts are, but I can tell you that applying it to your life is a lot harder than what we think. We can learn this crap all day long, and unless we figure out how to put it into real practice. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is when we stop and reflect on things that we already know. Like, for instance, Lavinia and I on this on this esoteric level that we've never had before, and I'm absolutely grateful that she's entertaining this with me. And we've been talking about Christianity and the Hermetic principles and all the parables of Jesus and things of that nature. And it's taking our relationship to a different place than it was before. And I'm proud to say that I feel closer and I feel more accountable for the things that I'm learning when I have her, learning them with me or talking through them with me, at least with, with these other references that we've had in our lives together as well, through church and other books that we've written, stuff like that. So I tell you what, guys, if you can have just the most brief conversation with your wife and in some of this stuff, and no, you don't need to go all the way down the rabbit hole and freak her out. But I think that when you really do take a close look at some of the things that Jesus was teaching and preaching, and just the story of his life, those lessons, just looking at the journey, and then applying it to some of the other philosophical and theology and theology that we read about, man, it's pretty sweet. It's pretty sweet, guys. I just want to say that. And then her being able to hold me to those things, because ultimately we need our wives, and they can help us to develop, and hopefully we can help them as well along the way.
I like that. But I also point out, you mentioned how hard it was, and then you do a great example without any difficulty. So I think we kind of get in our own heads and think things are harder. But that's a fantastic example of exactly what I was talking about, like how we apply things to our lives and how it makes it better, and just sharing that with other people. Josh?
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of what Dennis was saying here, it's kind of the same thing in our family. I mean, I don't know if I get deep down in the weeds with what Dennis and Lavinia do for their esoteric work, but I know once I got my wife not so much more involved, but brought her more around when we were doing things like, involving her in like this weekend. And, the biggest thing for us is we have, floor school every Wednesday, and my family comes up and eats with all the brothers every Wednesday. I mean, that's our, the funny fact is we went grocery shopping, and I told everybody, I was like, look, we're going to stay at home and we're going to eat this week. And my daughter goes, we're still going to Taqueria on Wednesday, right? Yes, we're still going out Wednesday, but it's, what it kind of opened up my wife's eyes a little bit more when I got her a little bit more involved to kind of see, because when I started, she was all like, I have no clue what you're doing. And it's like, well, that's fine. But once I got a little bit more involved in reaching out to people, and now that the connections we have, not just with me, some of the brothers that we have, it's like, it's unreal how those connections have been made. I mean, we went last week, we had a grotto cruise, and we went on the, Carlton, Newberry, and a few other people, Roy and people like that. And just the connections that she's been able to make, along with the connections I've been able to make with some of those brothers and the families and all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. So like I said, when we can get our wives more involved that way, just like Dennis is doing, it's it's great. It brings everything together like full circle almost.
Love that, man. Anyone else?
I agree. I'm fixing to drive by your house and honk. By the way.
My house?
Well, no, my house, and you can look at my big Easter bunny that I have in the yard now.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you'll see it when you drive by.
Who let you in the neighborhood?
No, who let me go to Buc-ee's is the question.
Yeah. Nice. I like it.
Brad, did you have something?
Yeah, so I was just thinking about, so this week I was reading in Lightfoot's commentary again, and I shared like the end of one of the chapters on operative and speculative masonry. It's chapter 20 in his commentary, and the end of it says, he who knows nothing of the philosophy of Freemasonry will be apt to become lukewarm and indifferent. But he who devotes himself to the contemplation will feel an ever increasing ardor in its study. It kind of goes on to say, that we find that the moral, religious, and philosophical doctrines of Freemasonry respectively relate to the social, the eternal, and the intellectual progress of man, which I feel like is kind of what you were talking about with the triangle. Whenever you come into the lodge and you work your way down, and if you continue to look uh, and seek, the philosophy of Freemasonry, then you won't become lukewarm and just stagnate in the middle there. You'll keep continuing to funnel down and light. You start to understand those interpretations and things that Pike was talking about in the quote. So yeah, I just continue to read little things and just kind of marinate on those thoughts through the
That's
week.
good.
I'll read like a page or two out of a book, and that's really all it takes for me to like really think and open up my school of thought, and just really try to apply that to my life.
That's good. You're being reflective. That's really good. That's the best way to read. I mean, it doesn't matter how many books you read if you don't actually think about what you're doing, right? Same thing in the catechism. It doesn't matter how many degrees you memorize the catechism for if you don't internalize what you learned. But thank you for sharing that. That's really good. Byron, Jacob, Daniel, anyone else have thoughts?
I don't really have anything at the moment. Yeah, I'm just listening more than anything else tonight.
I can respect that.
I think there's a lot there. Like I want to take it kind of like the way you did, Justin, where it is this moment of reflection for ourselves, right? It's really easy to go to somebody and say, hey, what does this mean? Right? And then just give you the answer of, for me, this means this, right? This is X, Y, Z. And X means this, Y means this, Z means this. Mm-hmm. Whereas if we look deeper into ourselves and look deeper into what maybe the symbolism means to us, how we can translate that. Maybe there's an allegory there. What does that allegory look like? What are those equal in my life or what I've gone through? How does that improve me, right? What are those symbols and allegories that I see? And what are the threads that I can pull on based upon my personal experiences and where I can learn and reflect on, right? Brad was mentioning reading a little bit and then reflecting on it, right? So clearly being self-reflective and improving upon that, like, oh, this is what I read, this is what it means to me. How does that connect to all the other parts of my life?
Yeah.
Right. And so I think for me, that's the bigger thing there is are we only wanting to take kind of that baby mush? You think about green beans and peas, right? When you have babies, you just mush it up and you force feed them. Well, this is good for you, eat it. Mm-hmm. Well, if that's all we stay at, we never actually learn, hey, there's all this, I'm green beans because masonry, right? But like, man, once you have like roasted green beans with some garlic in it and some bacon, you're like, wow, that's the best green bean I've ever had. It really isn't green beans at that point, but you're digging into like this different things, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, there's all these different ways to do stuff and these different ways and experiences that I've had. And once you have those experiences, for me, it's tying back to that experience. Like, oh, I've gone through this struggle in my life, and I can relate this principle from Masonry to that struggle in my life. Or I saw this struggle somewhere else and somebody else was struggling with this. Oh, that's what that could mean. And for me, it's as you go through life, as you go through those experiences, through those struggles, what are those connections that you can draw? How can you relate that to other people then? And then as you think about not only yourself, but maybe you're in that mentor place, this is what this could mean for you. But encourage people to find that answer on their own as well.
I like that. I like that a lot. The what kind of resonated with me about that is you're right. There is like a one size fits all kind of definition given to us, but the other interpretations. Let me back up. Not every breakdown of a symbol has to be like a presentation, if that makes sense. Like the working tools don't have to be a 20-minute presentation. It could be as simple as, guys, I just want to share that I had an opportunity at work. I'm just making this up, by the way. I had an opportunity at work where I could have lied, and it would have saved me a lot of trouble. But by squaring my actions, I created work for myself. But we really created something really good to make up for that, right? Like things are really going well at work. Like my boss really appreciates me stepping up, something like that, right? And then so I don't know, someone in the chat may be like, hey, I never had considered the square in that kind of context, and or just that kind of behavior. Like, oh man, I really need to reevaluate some of the things I do and be sure I'm applying the square in that same context, or something like that. And so we're learning from one another, but we're also giving examples. Like, hey, this is how we can apply these to our lives. And it's not about bragging, right? It's not about, man, I'll tell you what, man, I'm like the plum in my office, right? I stand up right and everyone just adores everything I do, right? It's nothing like that, but it's just learning moments that we can gain from each other, I think. And it doesn't even have to be strictly the symbolisms. Like we talked about a quote and how that applies to some of the things we observed throughout the week. That's really kind of, well, like, I like the idea of using quotes, so we can continue to keep using quotes and excerpts and things like that. But I think also just something as simple as, this is something that happened this week, and I relate this to this symbol. And it's not, well, I don't agree with you. I don't think that's the proper use of the square or anything like that. It's just listening and learning from one another. I like that.
Well, and so much of what we do is subject to that kind of personal interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
There's you can look at the square in one way, you can look at the plumb in another, and level in another, and if you simply take them at their face value, you're going to learn valuable lessons. But if you really want to dig deeper, there's a whole lot of meat left on that bone. You just have to be willing to dive in and get some.
Yeah, absolutely.
And isn't that why allegory works so well, right? Because there is a surface level story, and then there's the deeper level story that you can look at and self-reflect upon and go, oh, I could think about this in a different way.
Absolutely. I like where this conversation is going, y'all. This is good stuff. This is the kind of conversations I wish we had in our lodges more often. Does anyone else have any thoughts? Is Dennis not with us anymore?
He's muted.
He must be driving through the boondocks right now.
Or he's trying to get out of his truck and get to his computer and get all that stuff going.
Yeah, if he drove by my house, he's at his house already, so he's trying to get out of the truck and get on his laptop, I guarantee it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I got all my stuff out of the truck. Now actually I'm fixing to walk over to the Ford dealership with my wife and pick up her car. But I'm going to stay on while we're walking over there.
You're going to walk over to it?
You're going to walk over there?
Yeah.
How far?
We need the steps, man.
right? Because you've been sitting on your butt
Oh.
driving all day.
That's right. That's right.
Dennis is fixing to go on about a mile hike, just so everybody knows.
Yeah. We've been sitting on our butts for about 8 hours now, so it's time to walk a minute. But what's interesting is I like the way that Byron put it, is that there's something to be had, but there's still meat left on the bone if you want to go for it. And I truly agree with that. I think that we tend to stop within our lodges. Number one, we tend to leave it only to the brother that's teaching the ritual work to explain some of those symbols, and I think that when you rely on that person to do that, you are getting a lot of the superficial answers that we all know and love, right? We all know these answers. Those are the things that we were all taught. But when we step back and look at the need for real mentorship and real reflection in our lodge, then there's a lot more to offer our brothers than just that superficial meaning. I think Justin and I have talked about it years ago when we first started this gig together. We talked a lot about the fact that so many people, so many lodges will, they have the brother that teaches the work, the ritual work, and then the answer that everybody gives is, and everything else you need to know is right there in that monitor. And that's about as superficial as it gets, is what's in that monitor. And it takes a lot of travel time and a lot of book time to figure out what's beneath the surface.
I mean, the monitor's deeper than what you'll see in most lodges, but it's not much deeper, right? It'll go into more details for like your lectures and things like that. There are interesting things in the monitor, but yeah, like you cannot base your Masonic improvement.
There definitely are.
Yeah.
There definitely is a lot more in that monitor. However, it's just like with the Bible. Everybody likes to point to the Bible and say, well, that's the light of Masonry, blah blah blah. Well, unless you're comparing it with other schools of thought and all the different working tools of our degrees, then how are you really going to improve yourself in Masonry? You can improve yourself, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And we all know that. But how are you going to improve yourself in Masonry?
I think the brothers that would point at the Bible in that context, or the monitor in that context, those porch masons we were talking about, right? And it's not, and don't get me wrong, just because you're at that point doesn't mean that's all you will ever be. So I'm not trying to be insulting. I was one of those guys at one point, right? Where you just think, well, if you really care about it, more information, there's that blue book you can look at, but it's pretty much already explained to us. Like it's all in the lectures and everything. That's, I would say, like 90% of Masons are at that point where it's just like you're saying, it's in the monitor. Like if you really care, there it is. I just had a call from a brother who's been an office at his lodge for a long time. He's talking about OLT. He couldn't even tell me what it was actually called, like OPT, OTDL, or whatever. And so it's like, oh my gosh, like how long you been doing that position? And so it's you're right. That's something we have to get past.
Well, and I'm glad you said it, because it's something that we have to acknowledge all the time, is that we all started at a certain level. We all did. And, there was a long time that I didn't take it any further either. Mm-hmm. We all learn at our own pace, and we all grow differently. And so for me to say what I'm saying, I'm not trying to lowbrow any brother because he hasn't taken it any further than, well, if you haven't jumped into the monitor, jump into it, please. please, and then go from there, and then jump into the Bible, and then jump into, esoterica, and then jump into the 7 Hermetic principles. But you got to start somewhere. Start with what you know, and go from there. I don't want any brother out there to feel discouraged from what I'm saying tonight, because I'm in a different place than I was 10 years ago, and I'm in a different place today than I was 2 years ago. And where I realize that it's not my place to lowbrow any brother for where he is in his journey. All I should be doing is encouraging him and helping him understand that there's more to it than what meets the eye.
There is a saying, and I won't say who it's attributed to, and I always felt it was condescending. Take the cellophane off your monitor, right? But it's not wrong. It's just the way it's said, in my opinion. But yes, take the cellophane off. If you want further light, you have a book that's sitting in the corner of one of your rooms that probably has not been opened, right? Start with that. Start there. And don't use that as your one and only interpretation of everything, but use that as your launching point for your esoteric studies, and or just use whatever's available. It doesn't even have to be the monitor, but pick something. Start somewhere, and don't complain that you don't know, that you don't understand something, or that things are not, you don't know what to do, or things are not clear when you have guidebooks. And they all look different, but when you have these things and they're untouched, don't complain. That's where you have to start. And the thing is, like, we cannot pour information into your brain. You can listen to 100 lectures and you're still going to learn new things. You have to undertake it yourself. Freemasonry is not passive, and that's the big issue with a lot of brothers is they if it's not explained to them, if they don't get into the lecture or they don't get into the degree, then that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it.
Well, and your remark about taking the cellophane off of the monitor is really a good. It's a great starting place, because it's something that we're all, as Masons anyway, it's something that we're all familiar with. We all know it's there. We may or may not have read it over the course of our Masonic journeys, but it gives us a good, solid, common starting point where we can go into the monitor. And I'm actually sitting here. I have a copy of the old blue cipher book in front of me, and the thing that I prefer about that one over the current is that it includes the monitorial sections in the lectures. And when you go through and read them in their entirety, the lessons are given a significantly deeper meaning, and they're better illustrated, I think. Plus, there's the addition of sections like in the EA, the monitor lists out the furniture of the lodge and the movable and immovable jewels within the lodge, and these things are not given typically to the new brother, but these are some very strong, very powerful lessons that that certainly will aid any Mason in his journey in self-improvement, in looking at how these things work and what they do and what they represent.
No, the things that are left, that are like in the long form lectures like you're talking about, that are in the monitor, those are huge. It's huge. There's a huge amount of really important information that gets left out, and there's even things that are kind of referred to throughout your Masonic journey that if you haven't received the full lecture or haven't read the monitor, they just kind of pop up out of the blue, like, oh, well, what's this have to do with anything? And so you're absolutely right. I mean, the learning the look as a I'll be hypocritical here, because I will say this: if you are trying to learn the full form lecture for any 3 degrees, and someone calls you and asks you to come give the lecture, and you don't have that full thing memorized, and you're trying to just give the regular lecture, That is rough, very rough. So I
Oh yeah.
understand if anyone has not memorized the full form lectures. I understand. Don't get me wrong, but the information in that monitor is still really vital to the information that you should have received in that degree. And so you should still be responsible for looking through that monitor. There's a lot of good information in there.
I think that's being recognized now. Um, I just came back from a couple of the Grandmasters conferences where they were emphasizing that Ashlar program. I think Brad was talking about last week or the week before, and that's something that they kind of drill home when they're talking about that is having that lodge mentor and making sure that it is different from the person that's teaching them the catechism, and making sure that they're using um, the monitor, the Ashlar book, the the candidate EA Fellowcraft and Master Mason pamphlets, and the Lightfoot commentaries, and anything else that mentor could use to assist that brother. And that mentor pairing should start from the time the ballot is cast and last all the way through until after 1 year after this gentleman's turned in his Master Mason work, and helping them learn and grow and understand the process of how to find more of that esoteric knowledge.
Mm. Yeah, that's I don't think I've seen the Ashlar book, but I do like the idea of having that monitor on hand and working with these guys outside of the context of just the memory work. Having someone
So
separate, they're teaching the memory work, and this guy is just he's kind of breaking down for you, helping you to explain and understand. I like that a lot.
yeah, that Ashler book was like 180 something pages, I think they said, and it's available on the Grandview portal under resources for everybody to download for free.
Okay.
It splits up. It's got like an introduction, and then it split up a section for how to be a mentor, some guidelines on how to be a mentor, and then some information and guidelines for the candidate, for the EA, for the Fellowcraft, and the Master Mason. Split it all up separate like that. Um, but yeah, I've started reading some of the mentor stuff at the beginning. Um, it's it's a lot of really good information. But I think that just like anything else in Freemasonry, we're going to get out of that program what we put into it if we put it to somebody that's not esoterically minded. They're just going to read the monitor to the new brother. But I think if we take a deeper dive in it, give it to somebody that's going to want to do it and want to grow and want this brother to grow as well. I think that's something that is going to be very useful. Brad, have you guys started using that in Roy City yet? Is that something that you've implemented, or how's that going?
The last three, excuse me, the last 3 weeks we've been reading through it as a group in the EA degree section. Um, we've gotten about halfway through it, and we will read for about an hour. So we've spent like 3 hours, and we've only got halfway through the EA section.
Wow.
So it's pretty deep because you can really you can read a section and then discuss and have rhetoric and just try to hear what other people think about it. And we're no experts at it, but we're all just trying to learn, really.
I'm trying to pull it up right now so I can get some eyes on it.
Yeah, there is a ton to unpack in that in the monitorial section of the EA lecture.
Mm-hmm.
It's incredibly rich, and absolutely there is certainly more meat on that bone than you are given to eat during the typical lecture as it is delivered.
You know what's?
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dennis. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what's interesting about this program, and I haven't looked at it yet. I will, of course, because I'm always interested in any educational piece that's available to the craft. And I'm not going to look at it as a critique either. I'm going to look at it as someone trying to learn and get more light. But what's cool about something like this is that Justin and I were just approached by a brother that the worshipful master of his lodge, this brother has only been a Mason for about 18 months. And the worshipful master of his lodge told him to go ahead and start doing an educational program in their lodge. Mm-hmm. And in passing, this guy hears this 50-year Mason, say, "Oh, I've been in this 50 years. What's this guy going to teach me? He's only been in it 18 months. Well, I understand the reservation that an grumpy old past master might have. And I understand that he shouldn't, because just as we've talked about recently, when we forget that we are supposed to be the mentor as well as the apprentice at all times, then our ego gets the best of us and we stop learning. So, however, something like this can help bridge that gap to where a young brother that's just getting in, that actually came in for education and not to sit around and talk about their job and fish fries and all that kind of stuff. Somebody who is really looking for enlightenment. A young man that comes in and wants to give these presentations, he can go to this book, and it's been given by, other men that have been Masons for years and years that wrote this. And so it's almost irrefutable to that brother that's a 50-year Mason. And you can say, look, I'm learning this as you are learning this. It's not me telling you that you should be learning this as a Mason. This is something that's been put out as an opportunity for our lodge to grow as men and Masons. And I am wholeheartedly for this program, even though I hadn't personally taken a look at it yet. I've got so many books I'm reading at any given time that it's crazy. But for a lodge that doesn't have anything to talk about, now they've got something to talk about.
I will say I'm just kind of glancing through this. I'm looking on page 67, and so they have, like, if you have a lodge and you're like, I really want to build up a Masonic library, I don't really know where to start. This has, obviously the monitor, you got the candidate information. Those are just readily available for anybody, right? But you have the builders, Freemasonry celebration of the craft, 101 questions about Freemasonry, a pilgrim's path. You got a comprehensive view, Freemasonry through 6 centuries. There are so many books on here. Like if in encyclopedias and things that you could put in your Masonic library, or just for yourself. Like if you just want to collect it and have your own little personal library. I'm liking it so far. I'm not really seeing like a breakdown, like, hey, these are some examples of some things you could teach yet. But it's kind of like when Brother Norman came on our show, and he was talking about when you're trying to build an education program at your lodge, just start with some encyclopedias and have them available, and just hey, pick something out of the encyclopedia that's interesting to you, and research it and give a presentation. And so these are great starts for any lodge. I definitely started the encyclopedias and like the basic Masonic stuff, but that'd be really huge.
So that section that you're in right there, Justin, is all for the mentor and showing them different resources and all that. Mm-hmm. If you go a little further, it's stuff that, think questions that a candidate might have and how to answer some of those, how to set up that candidate for success, make sure they understand the time that's going to be required, make sure they know, that what the commitment's going to be. You know, it's all about kind of like the stuff that um, I think Dennis was talking about, setting up a list of this is what we're going to expect of our new folks coming in,
Yeah,
and
we're making a pamphlet at OSO for that very thing. We're starting a mentorship program, and the task of the committee is to create the program and not necessarily follow it 100% as far as the 189 pages, but to create a program that will take men to Masons and beyond, and men to Master Masons and beyond. And so, I think that's a great resource, and we should definitely give any person who's interested in Masonry just the basic gist of what the requirement is, what the extent of the commitment's going to be. And we not only have it now for education and whatnot, but we also have it for what the expectations are for attendance and everything else as well.
It's good.
So this is stuff that we're hashing out before they even get a petition. They're going to have this to chew on before they even think about asking us for to be able to knock on the door.
Just as a side note, Dennis, there's a section here, and this is what made me think about it, but I wanted to talk to you about it anyway. There's a section here about the Holy Saints John. Brother Normand gave a presentation at this conference, and he kind of hinted at it last time we talked, and it's good. And so it might be worth having him come back on again sometime and give that talk, because I'm telling you, man, it was
do we really want to tear apart this mentorship program with Pete Norman?
No, not tearing up the mentorship program, but
if he tears it apart, it's not us, right?
No, it's not the mentorship program, but about the Saint John in particular.
Yes, I know that's an interesting discussion. Yes. We had talked about doing that, and we need to get him back on. I'll give him a call, because he'll come on anytime I ask him.
Yeah, it would be good. Just putting that out there.
Okay, so I hate to be the dummy in this conversation, but the Ashlar program that y'all are talking about, is that the one that's the 2024 updated Ashlar program that's on the Grandview website?
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's the one. It was came about with Right Worship Chapman's year, so that's why it's 2024. And
okay, no, that's cool. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right thing.
The only thing I don't like about these kind of things, but you could also argue it's the same with any of these things, like the monitors and anything like that, is you're given these interpretations, and I think it's important to understand as a mentor, like, here's the interpretations, but don't feel like these are the end all definitions. Like, it's not a dictionary with the definition, if that makes sense. Like, the interpretations are almost like initial guides. Like, hey, this is the general use of it, but it doesn't mean that if it doesn't fall strictly within this, it's kind of like, it's like tools in real life. Like, sometimes another tool just fits, right? Like, sometimes it's not made for something in particular, but it does the job and it's great. It's kind of the same thing. But yeah, I'll be taking this copy to my lodge, and we'll be looking at it. So I didn't realize, I thought it was like a book or something through their website, like that you bought.
Put it directly in here.
So this is good. I like it. But yeah, Dennis, I did see that message on the Facebook page, and the for those that and Dennis may disagree with me on this, but my initial response to this individual, because he was saying, I brought this presentation to my lodge, and some past masters were pointing out, I was talking about this, but I haven't even done that in a degree yet, and he was trying to avoid like stepping on. Oh, what was the term actually? He didn't want to upset anybody, and my response was, why are you really so concerned about that? And here's the thing, like, we want peace and harmony. We don't want to upset people. But you're not overtly trying to make people angry, right? You're not doing anything abrasive. They're the ones being abrasive. And anytime you're trying to do anything good, anytime you're trying to change the status quo, Masonic Improvement gets quite a few haters. But and
Yes.
quite a few. And those of us
You just tell them Dennis said so.
and those of us that have worked really hard in our lodges to try to improve it, you've faced this kind of this brick wall that feels like you're beating your head against sometimes. And my point is, if you want to improve your fraternity, if you want to improve your lodge, you can't let that really upset you, right? You can't let that be like a deciding factor. The thing is this something that my lodge will benefit from? If it's good for the lodge, do it, like Dennis always says, right? Is this something that is relevant to my lodge, that they will benefit from, that will help us move in the right direction? Yes. Will it maybe upset one or two guys that don't like education, or they've been in the fraternity? They were best friends with Hiram Abiff, and I mean, they've been a past master for 300 years or something. Will it maybe upset them? Possibly, but is it for the greater good? Then yes. And that was really kind of my response. Like, I still was like, hey, if you want suggestions, here's some suggestions, but keep in mind, you're going to upset people no matter what. Even if you follow these suggestions, if you're trying to tiptoe around upsetting them, this won't work for you, because they're going to find some way to break it apart, because that's not the Freemasonry. They're the Porch Masons that we were talking about. This is not the type of Freemasonry that they're interested in. They want to come to business meetings. They want to talk about fish fries, and then they want to go home, or they want to have a chili dog before they leave or something. That's all they expect, and you're not going to do anything to make them happy.
Well, and to be fair, I was going to say the same thing, but I stopped in the middle of my typing because it was 2:30 in the morning, and I never ever post anything really good at 2:30 in the morning. So I thought I'd better stop and wait until I had some clarity before I said exactly what I wanted to say, because typically, the first answer that comes to mind is F them if they can't take a joke.
Yeah. What was that? How I Met Your Mother episode? Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. So just stop.
Exactly. So that's kind of how I felt. But I agree 100%. And I think that anyone who has that attitude, you're not going to teach them anyways. They've already made up their mind that they're smarter than you, and that there's nothing you can teach them. So it doesn't matter how long you have in Masonry, they will still have 50 years your senior of wherever you are in Freemasonry. So they will always be your senior, and they will never accept anything that you have to say. So don't even worry about what they're going to. You may change people's mind over the years, but do not base what you're going to do on them.
We have one of the lodges I'm a member of. It's a really small rural lodge, and they had a lodge that before I came along merged with them, and they had like just stuff everywhere. And when I first joined, you go in the dining room, it's just crap everywhere. It's like, this is not a dining room; it's a storage area. And so I pushed, and we got a cleanup day, and we brought a trailer, and we just got rid of stuff. And past master came by, kind of looking for specific things, and I mean he was being kind of pissy because we were getting rid of things, and this is whatever. And then like a month later, at our next meeting, he came up to me. He's like, "Hey man, he didn't say it like that. He was like, I just really apologize. I I was pretty upset last time I saw you, but this looks a lot better, and I realize you're doing this for good. And these things were just sitting here. They'd already sat here for like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever long it was, and no one was using them for anything. So I appreciate you putting the work in, and that's just the thing. But the thing is, you can't stop out of fear if you know it's the right thing. I'm not saying be like stubborn or not stubborn, but because you can be stubborn, but don't be like arrogant about it. But if you know what's for best, and you got other people on board, you just keep pushing. And like Dennis said, sometimes you'll just never make them happy, but sometimes they don't like the change. But then they sit back and look at what happened after the fact. They're like, well, I didn't care for the education, but man, this has really kind of changed the atmosphere here. Or I didn't really want you to throw all that stuff away, but it looks a lot better in here. I don't want you to rip up that carpet. That's my great grandfather wove that from his leg hairs back in the Middle Ages. but I gotta admit, it looks a lot better without it, and weird smell's gone now. And so you never know. You just gotta keep working towards what is right.
Yeah, I'll add on to that. I had been a Mason for, I don't know, 2 years, maybe 3 years, when I got it in my head. I wanted to learn that long form lecture for the EA. And I made the mistake of confessing to the guy that taught me my work that I was doing this, that I was teaching it to myself. And, we're sitting in one of these little itty bitty country lodges that I belong to. And he goes, "Hey, Brother Weber, I hear you're working on something that some folks hadn't heard before. How about you lay it on us?" And basically browbeat me into doing what I had learned of it that, up to that point. And I had more than a couple of guys come up to me after lodge had closed, going, "I've never heard that. I've never heard those words. I've never been exposed to those lessons." And some of these guys are 15, 20, 30 years my senior in Masonry. And, they were like, "Thanks. Keep doing what you're doing." Now ask me if I have ever delivered that long form lecture. No, I have not. But the learning of it, the part of it
Not
that
yet.
I did learn, yeah, not yet. But one of these days, I just might. If I get a very, very, very patient candidate, maybe I'll go ahead and learn the rest of the lecture and deliver that 3-hour monologue.
It's not that bad. Even the lecture itself, like it feels like when you're trying to learn it, it seems like a lot, but when you actually deliver it, like the lecture, it goes by fast. Same thing the Fellowcraft lecture. Everyone's like, "Man, that's such a..." Like, honestly, I think conferring takes longer. And so,
Well, for the Fellowcraft, certainly, if you're delivering the lecture as it is now. But if you do the full form Fellowcraft lecture, there's 2 hours.
I don't know. I feel like you're challenging me to actually learn it now, though.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I'll learn it if you learn it.
You learn the long form Fellowcraft,
Mhm.
and I'll learn the long form EA, and we'll browbeat somebody else into learning the long form for the master.
Hey, don't threaten me with a good time, Byron.
Yeah, right.
Well, the Fellowcraft is my favorite lecture, and I do enjoy doing the walking lecture.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, Brad?
I enjoy watching them all from the sidelines.
I was waving goodbye to Josh.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were like getting ready to talk or something. Bye, Josh.
Bye, Josh.
Good night, all. We'll see y'all next time.
See you soon,
brother.
Josh.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, I may do that. I'm just enough of a sucker for punishment to maybe do that. But the Fellowcraft's actually the one that I started learning the full form for. And then people were asking me to come give that lecture, and I was like, it screwed me up. But I don't know of any fellowcrafts coming up in the area, so I may just go ahead and do it. That way I have time.
Right.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything else? It is getting kind of late, and I know Dennis has been on the road for 8 hours. So if we want to go ahead and look at wrapping things up.
Oh, Dennis is still on the road with his young bride. We didn't have our steps in after walking to the dealership, so we dropped off the truck, and now we're walking to the post office.
Nice.
Good night.
Why don't you just walk to New Mexico? You'll get all your steps in.
I know. It probably would have been more efficient, too.
Oh.
Yeah. So anyone have anything they want to add tonight?
Yeah, I got to travel with some family to some Masonic stuff this weekend. Didn't quite go as far as Dennis, but I went from our little corner down in the far southeast reaches of Texas up to Tyler for a Grand Masters conference, and then over to Milam Lodge number 2 for the conference and then the banquet there. For those of you that have never been to Milam number 2 in Nacogdoches, I strongly recommend a trip over there when they're doing their annual Grandmaster Conference. They've got a lot of really neat historical artifacts in their museum. They set up a museum inside their building, right outside their lodge room, and inside the lodge room they have 2 chairs that they keep set out of the way. And I don't want to butcher the story, but they give a long story with it. But there is a chair at Milam number 2 that is reserved for 3 specific people, and only 3 specific people are allowed to ever sit in this chair. It's one of the 12 original chairs from the old stone fort when Milam number 2 was first constituted. And those 3 people are the President of the United States, the Governor of Texas, and the Grand Master of Texas Masons. And it's a neat thing. It was a big ceremony for most worshipful to go sit in the chair on Saturday. And it was like I said, they talked a lot about their history. They did a presentation and an open deal, so family could be there. Everybody was there. It was a really, really neat thing to see, a grown man sit on this tiny little chair that it had such history with that. So it was a really, really neat program. If anybody's never been to Nacogdoches for that, definitely put it on your list.
Very cool. I didn't know about that. Thank you for sharing. Nacogdoches. Very
Yeah,
cool.
you should have known about it. That's up near your neck of the woods. Robert Park was up there.
That's not my neck of the woods.
So Robert made it to the Tyler one. I didn't see him at Nacogdoches. I got to talk to him a little bit in Tyler.
Well, good.
Nacogdoches. That's hold on, let me pull it up.
It's near Lufkin, about halfway north and south, but all the way east into Piney Woods.
Yeah, that is not my neck. That's closer to your house than mine.
Justin, when you drive to New Mexico, from your house to Nacogdoches is pretty close.
I guess.
That's only about a 3-hour drive, Justin.
Nobody likes a
anything
quitter,
north of
Justin.
I-10's in Justin's neck of the woods, right, Dennis?
That's exactly
You know
right.
what? I don't even think I've ever been to Nacogdoches, honestly.
Road trip.
I guess so.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's a problem.
So they also made a point, and I believe that that's going to be their thing. Milam number 2 is the oldest continually operating lodge in the state of Texas.
It's not the oldest continuously used lodge building in the state of Texas, though.
That's right, not the building.
That is Goliad number 94.
Not the building. But they
might
do have
those bragging rights, but we got the oldest building.
We split so many hairs. It's not the oldest continuously used Masonic building made of oak with a brick foundation in the state of Texas.
Man, this sucker's made from the stones from the quarry of the Presidio.
King Solomon himself mined it out of the quarries of the Presidio.
You come on down and I'll show you exactly what it's made of.
Well, Dennis, I made my hotel reservation, so I'll see you on Saturday.
Man, you all right. Golly. Yeah, Dave said he was expecting to see that thing coming in on Wednesday. So, man, I'm so happy that you're going to be delivering that. I think Scott will be happy too. I think
Yep.
Scott will be happy to see you.
Right on.
Nice.
Very cool. Anybody else got anything? Going once, going twice.
Well, you know, I
going
got something.
thrice. I'll just say, I want to say this. I fully recognize that that when you're hosting, like, the more esoteric something gets, the harder it is to attract people, right? But we have to be supportive of these things, and I recognize it's always going to be, it's usually going to be a smaller group, right? But it makes me sad to see brothers put things together and get, like, all these great speakers in and just not get the turnout it should. And like, Roy City was great. It was outstanding. It was full house. The summit, full house. It was fantastic. But we have to be sure we're supporting all these things, because that's, in my opinion, like, I know I say, hey, Freemasonry has a spot for everybody, and I don't deviate from that. But that's where the real Freemasonry happens, in my opinion.
Oh, you're not going to go.
So we got to be supportive of these things. That said, excuse me, like I always say, I appreciate each and every one of you. I love you, brothers, and y'all are really what makes this. This is where my real Freemasonry happens. It happens outside the context of a lodge room in many cases, because it gives me an opportunity to actually sit and discuss the important ideas with you, brothers. Those of us that are joining us in the chat, leaving their questions and comments, it means a lot to me, and so I appreciate all of you. If anyone does watch this, and or if you're in chat now and you want to participate in these kind of conversations, because we have a lot of these that are just behind the scenes, consider joining. What's that, like? There's a join button underneath the window. It's not subscribe. I can't remember what it's actually called. I think it's just join. You can join and become a member of Masonic Improvement. And we're not a lodge or anything like that. So
it's join.
It is join. Okay, I thought it was. I just kind of caught myself off guard. I didn't know what I was going to say till I said it. But but I mean, we're not a lodge. We don't pretend to be or anything like that. But we have some great conversations, and this is where I get my cup filled every week. And so I appreciate each and every one of you. If you want to be a part of this, consider joining the inner circle. And that said, I think that's all I really got. Spring break's over. I'm about to start back working for about 7 weeks until summer. So I'm just ready to grind. What do you got,
Do you
Dennis?
really work, though? I mean, really, come on.
I'm not hard. Yeah, I'm pretty good. What you got, Dennis?
Let's see here. Well, first of all, I enjoyed my trip this weekend with to see Most Worshipful. Steve Almager, one of our close friends of Masonic Improvement, one of my dearest friends. He finished off his year in the East, the Grand East, and now he is without the door and very happy about it. He's going to hug his wife for a year, and then decide, how much masonry he's going to put back into his life, which I don't blame him. But I'm really excited for him. He had a great year. We've got another good year coming up in New Mexico, and I'm looking forward to that with Most Worshipful Justice. It's going to be a good year. I don't know if any of you guys caught the post that I did last night, one of those 2 a.m. posts. Actually, it was 2 in the afternoon that I actually posted it, but it was in regards to it was in regards to education. It has to do with the presentation that I'm going to be giving over at Serenity Lodge over in Santa Fe, Texas, in May. It's going to be a great presentation, talking about the social aspects of Freemasonry in relation to the cultures of the eras. So look for that post that I did this weekend, and I'd like for our inner circle members and even the brothers that like to listen in on our lives and troll us even, go on and check out that post and see what you think. I'd like to hear what you think, but it's an introduction into what I'm going to be speaking on. It has a lot to do with the fact that today's Mason is educated online and they know what they're looking for. Basically, we market all the latest and greatest or actually all of our greatest in history as Masons. And I pose the question, is that what people find when they walk through the door? Is that what they're finding? Are they finding the tools necessary to become that man? I'm curious to know y'all's thoughts. But I also had another thought during this, the quality versus quantity thought, and how value is relative to quality. And in reality, even back in the Joiner era, when a lot of us complained about our Freemasonry getting diluted and all that, in reality, that's what the culture was looking for of the day. So Freemasonry was exactly what they were looking for in the day. The problem lies in when we get stuck in thinking what yesteryear wanted was what the man of today wants. And so we should be looking at what the young men coming in are looking for and what they joined for, and not making assumptions that it was the same old that we had yesteryear with our fish fries, our social gatherings, and all that kind of stuff. And while those things are important because they have, that fraternal aspect to it, then we can't forget that we have education, and that's what these young men are looking for, is that mentor-apprentice experience. That's just a taste of what I'm going to be speaking on, and it's what that post was on, and I hope that some of you guys will get on there and give your thoughts, because I always value what you guys are thinking, because I know that y'all are engaged. If you're engaged with us, you're engaged with your Freemasonry, and you care about what's going on. It's almost like how Robert Park says, our law book is big, but that just means we're active. We care about what's going on in our Freemasonry and our laws of Texas. And so we're actively working to find the best resolution to whatever the problem is of the day. I kind of feel the same way about you guys, you brothers. Y'all are actively on here, whether it's BS or deep thoughts or whatever, you're actively on here pursuing that greatness that we don't always find in the lodge. You're actively on here trying to affect your Freemasonry as well as those around you, so that we can become better for our communities, for in all reality, even closer to home than that, for our wives, our children, our communities, and then of course our lodges. So brothers, I hope you get a chance to go look at that. I'm going to start posting a little bit more. I've taken a little bit of a hiatus lately, but I need to get out there and stir up some thoughts and see what you guys are interested in these days, because we need to keep our finger on the pulse of Freemasonry and do whatever we can to help those brothers like yourself that don't know of another brother out there in their area that they can talk to about this kind of stuff that crosses their mind. We are the group of brothers, our inner circle is that group of brothers that felt like they were on an island. And we are our community within Freemasonry. And if you feel like joining, that's great. If you like to just listen to us BS, then that's great too. But whatever you do, just keep it between the points.
Are you doing the thing? Are you doing the thing?
Do I need to do I need to do the thing?
Just feels
Are
weird
you
if you
there?
don't.
Can you
Yeah.
see me?
Yeah. There you
Do I
go.
need to do
Okay,
the
now
thing?
it's
Yeah, we
official.
can see you now.
Now I
There
can
you
wrap
go.
up.
The beautiful metropolis of Goliad. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
You know that courthouse right there was built by a Mason, a member of our lodge, as well as commissioned by a Mason. So the mayor commissioned it to be built by another Mason from our lodge, as with many of the buildings in this town. But anyways, that's for another story.
Like
You
it.
brothers have a great evening. I love you. I'm glad to have gotten to talk to you, and see you soon.
Good night, Dennis.
Good night. See you soon for sure.
Yes, sir. I'll see you. Actually, I'll probably be giving you a call Friday night.
Please do. We're gonna go do karaoke over at Jalisco. So why don't you go have a beer and a enchilada with us and do some karaoke?